guys, I'm Sally with OwlCrate Jr. and I'm here with another middle grade book haul. We are filming this on September 13th, so I'm bringing you 13 new middle grade releases that just came out in September. First up, we have the most recent graphic memoir from Reina Telgemeier, Guts. I read this one a few months ago and I absolutely loved it. It is about Reina when she is about 11 years old, I believe, 11 or 12, wakes up in the middle of the night with a terrible stomach ache and is barfing for like a week with the flu or something like the flu. But then even once she's better, she still has like massive anxiety about getting sick again or other people getting sick, and has developed a real phobia around throwing up, which is something that I also suffered with when I was much younger. It's just fantastic. I think it does a great job of talking about how anxieties manifest in your body, especially when you are a teen or preteen. I love it. I can't recommend it enough. She's the queen of graphic novels. Next up is Strange Birds, A Field Guide to Ruffling Feathers by Celia C. Pérez. I haven't read this one yet, but I read The First Rule of Punk, which came out last year, and it was one of my favorite middle grade reads of the year. This one is all about a group of girls, 3 very different girls who all get an invitation to a lavish mansion, and all sort of individually decide that this offer is too good to pass up. And then once they get there, they discover who actually sent them this invitation. And from there, it's also the story of sort of banding together to convince one of their Girl Guide troops to sort of do away with some outdated traditions, and just about like finding your group of people sort of in unexpected places, whether or not you think you have anything in common. It sounds great. Next is the latest release from Stuart Gibbs, and that is Charlie Thorne and the Last Equation. This one is being marketed as Jack Reacher meets Mr. Limoncello's Library. I have only had the chance to read the first 50 pages or so, but it is a rip-roaring adventure. It opens with Einstein on his deathbed, sort of hinting at a secret that he doesn't want to fall into the wrong hands. Cut to current time, we meet Charlie Thorne, who is a 12-year-old, like, super genius. She is already in university, and she is just, like, adventure genius extraordinaire. So she is on the CIA's radar, and they have decided that they need to recruit her to help them find this secret that is connected to Einstein and I believe sort of a bunch of other world famous scientists and the like, to make sure that this secret doesn't get into the wrong hands. I love the real life science that's tied into it, and I love that it is just a kick-butt girl super spy awesome kid. Next we have one that will appeal to a slightly younger crowd, but definitely would be a great read aloud for the whole family, and that is Bernard Pepperlin by Cara Hoffman. This is actually like a spin-off kind of Alice in Wonderland. So this tiny little mouse here, Bernard, is the dormouse. And he wakes up to find himself out of Wonderland and in Manhattan. Just sounds so sweet. And he has to, with the help of his friends, sort of stop a plot that is unraveling. I think if you are a fan of Stuart Little, Alice in Wonderland, or The Tale of Despereaux, then this would be a good one for you. Next up is one I have not had a chance to read yet, but Vey, our social media manager, has, and has not been able to stop talking about it, and that is Stargazing by Jen Wang. This is another graphic novel about 2 Chinese American girls. Christine is the main character who we meet first, and she is so excited when Moon moves in next door to them. But they sort of quickly discover that although they're fast friends, they also really don't have a ton in common. It sounds like a really interesting friendship story, and I love Jen Wang's illustrations. Next up we have Sauerkraut by Kelly Jones. This is a very interesting sounding sort of paranormal family adventure. Our main character is H.D. Schneck, and he is an inventor, and in order to raise the money to build a computer that he wants to enter into a contest. He is given the task of cleaning out the basement. But while he's in there, he finds this old pot, and it turns out that his grandmother's spirit is in this, and she sort of embodies him or gets him to help her recreate the family recipe for sauerkraut. I am so intrigued by this. I love the cover with the ghost grandma cuddling up there. Yeah, it just sounds like something I've never heard of anything like it before, and I'm looking forward to reading it. Next is one for a slightly older middle grade crowd, more like 11 to 13, and that is The Long Ride by Maria Budhos. This takes place in the early 1970s in New York, and our three main characters are all three mixed race girls who are just starting grade 7 and are super excited about it. They've been friends forever. But in this period of time, it is sort of right when in the thick of desegregation and busing. So these three girls are, instead of going to the school in their neighborhood that they have grown up in, which is largely a white population, they are now being bused to other areas of the city way far away from their neighborhood. It sounds like a great friendship story. It sounds like a good like historical novel in a lot of ways, because this is based on real life stuff that happened. And it sounds great. I really love stories that set in the 1970s, so I will be picking this one up soon. Next up, we have the first in a very fun new series by Scott Reintgen, and that is Saving Fable, book 1 of the new Tale Spinners series. This is such a fun concept and definitely has sort of similar vibes to The School of Good and Evil. Our main character, Indira, is a character in waiting. So in this world, there are a bunch of different lands. The sort of big important capital is called Fable, and that is where all the stories and the characters that you know and love from classic stories first started their stories. So Indira finally gets an audition for the protagonist preparatory school, but it doesn't go quite right, and suddenly she is on the side character track rather than the main character protagonist track that she wants to be on. It's so much fun though. Alice in Wonderland is one of her teachers. Mr. Darcy is one of her teachers. It just pulls in all of these different fandoms and classics, and it is such a fun way to introduce kids to stories that they might not have heard of before, as well as welcoming in some favorites. Next is My Jasper June by Laurel Snyder. Laurel Snyder wrote Orphan Island that came out a few years ago, which is still one of my favorite middle grade books of all time, and I'm so excited that she finally has another standalone story out. This one is about a girl named Leah and a girl named Jasper. Leah is it's the end of the school year and summer is about to start, and it should be this very happy time, but her family suffered a tragedy the year before, and her parents are very withdrawn, and she is just sad and lost and sort of left to her own devices for the summer. And in that time, she meets Jasper, who is just this sort of like mystical girl, it almost seems like. And they become fast friends. But it turns out that Jasper actually has a family secret as well. I don't know whether or not this actually has like a speculative fiction kind of twist to it, or if it is just contemporary, but either way, I'm so excited to read it. Next up, we have Anya and the Dragon by Sofiya Pasternack. I believe this is also the first in a new series, and I am totally in love with this cover. This one is set actually in the 10th century in Eastern Europe, and ties in lots of Russian folklore, which sounds really interesting. Our main character, Anya, comes from a Jewish family, and I believe they are one of the only Jewish families in the town that this takes place in. But also in this town, there are dragons. So Anya's family is about to lose their home, and she ends up making a deal with the czar of their village that she's going to help them capture the old dragon that lives in their town. But then through a bit of a twist of fate, the dragon actually ends up rescuing her, and she realizes that this old dragon is not this evil old beast. He's actually not that scary after all. I am loving how many dragon books have been coming out over the last few months, and that is just going to continue into 2020. But this sounds like one of the most intriguing takes on it that I've seen so far. Next up, we have The Humiliations of Pipi McGee by Beth Vrabel. This sounds like an all too relatable middle grade story. Penelope, or Pipi McGee, is just starting 8th grade, and sort of nobody in her class can let her live down the many humiliating things that have happened to her throughout her her school career. She peed her pants in school in the 4th grade, and it doesn't matter that she's turning 13. That's sort of all everybody still remembers, as well as a series of other things that she wishes were, could be stricken from the record. So her plan going into middle school is that she is going to make it her mission to humiliate everybody else, starting with the mean girl in her class, sort of no matter what that might mean for her reputation. Middle school is tough, and I think that a lot of kids will be able to relate to a bunch of different aspects of this story, whether you are the one doing the humiliating or the one who has been humiliated. Next, we have The Very, Very Far North by Dan Barrell. This one just sounds so sweet. It is about a tiny bear, or not, a not so tiny bear named Dwayne, who meets all kinds of other Arctic creatures and befriends them and has adventures with them, including a Major Puff the Puffin and Handsome the Muskox. I believe Dan Barrell has written quite a few picture books, but this is the first middle grade that I know of, and it looks absolutely adorable, plus it is full of great little illustrations. I think this would make a fantastic winter read aloud. And last but certainly not least, we have More to the Story by Hena Khan, who is the author of Amina's Voice that came out a few years ago. This is a modern retelling of Little Women through the eyes of a Pakistani-American Muslim family of girls. It sounds so great. I cannot wait to read this one. The main character, so the Joe character, is Jamila, or Jam. She writes for the newspaper. She wants to be a journalist. I am loving all of the Little Women retellings and graphic novels and everything that's been coming out lately. Movie adaptations. It's just so much fun to see it all brought back to life in different ways in this familiar story that we all love. So those are 13 of the middle grade releases that I am most excited about in September. If you have anything else that you have read this month or know is about to come out, please share it in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe for more bookish videos every week. Happy reading, and thanks for being awesome. Bye!